Hello YouTube, my name is Cecil and this is my 1967 Mustang coupe. I currently have it up on the rotisserie that I built out of 2 engine stands so that I could have access to the underneath to repair all the rust that this car had. It was pretty extensive in the usual spots for the Mustangs. The floor pans were basically so thin you could take a pencil and push through it. The rear end of the car was actually in pretty good shape. The quarters were kind of rough at one point. Somebody had attempted a repair with Bondo, and of course they didn't fix it correctly by putting sheet metal in it. They just put some newspaper in there and filled it full of Bondo. So needless to say, all that had to come out. Then of course I had to deal with the suspension and everything too. Both of the strut rod mounts in the front, which go to the lower control arms, were bent severely. I'm not sure if somebody tried to pull the car by attaching a chain to those or what they had done, but they were basically wrecked. So I got some new ones and cut the other ones out and replaced them. Here's a little bit of a shot of the rotisserie that I built out of 2 engine stands. The one at the back is basically the same. It's kind of simple, cheap, a lot easier than trying to crawl up underneath the car. Here's a shot of the radiator support, which I also replaced. I had to change 3 of the pieces of sheet metal in the engine bay. They were basically Swiss cheesed where the hood actually bolts to it. The nuts that are welded into those pieces of sheet metal on my car when I got it were basically washers and bolts, and they sucked. The hood wouldn't close correctly, nothing lined up. I'm also working on smoothing out the firewall, getting it back to shape, which I've about got it done. I'm also doing some extra work around the the shock towers, trying to reinforce those, weld up all of the seams. I'm also going to be adding some gussets around in this area like the later big block cars came with, because this is a common area for cracks in these cars. I had the age-old problem of the Mustangs with the leak around the cowl vents. That's what rotted the floorboards out. So needless to say, that had to come out to be repaired. Lots and lots of spot welds. My advice, if you're going to do this, make sure you got plenty of either spot weld cutters, or the unibits work pretty well, the step bits. The only problem with the step bits is you usually end up drilling all the way through, which is what I did, and then had to go back and weld up a lot of the holes that it left. Of course, some of this metal is pretty rough shape, so I ended up replacing it. Once that's done, you'll have a leak-free car again. Here's the actual panels. Instead of buying new ones as one piece, I bought the ends, which you can actually put back onto your center section, which is a little easier in my point, because the replacements, at least the ones that I could find, did not have the mounts for the windshield wipers and the other stuff underneath the dash made to it. You'd have to cut that off your old panel and put them back onto your new one. And that gets kind of tedious, not to mention the fact if you don't line it up right, it ain't going to work correctly. Here's a good idea of what I was talking about with all the holes left by the step bit. I haven't filled those in yet because I'm actually going to use some of them for spot welds when I put the car back together. Here's a little shot of the back side of it. I've already wire wheeled and cleaned everything and got it in rust bullet, which is my preferred rust proofing compound. Before I actually assemble these 2 pieces back together, one on top of the other, I'm actually going to paint the inside of this piece the color that I'm going to be painting the car, because once you've got this all put back together, you can't spray enough paint down through these cowl vents to make it look very good. So the ideal way is to spray this, then take plastic or newspaper or something which will keep the paint from going down in it when you're painting the entire car, and poke a couple pieces of it up through the cowl vents so that you can reach them from the top. So when you're done and all this is assembled back, you can pull that plastic, preferably plastic because paper might tear, out of there when you're done painting the car and not have to worry about overspray getting down in there. I have to say a thank you to my wife, who back in 1985 when she and I were dating found this car for me on the internet, or I'm sorry, the internet wasn't that big then. She found it in a trader paper, and we bought this car for $1,000. If it weren't for her support, I would not have had this car. So I'm sure that we've all got loving, caring people behind us is one reason that we're able to take on these endeavors. This has been a long, arduous process, and I could not have done it without her. As you can see, the inside of the car, I've basically gone over probably 95% of it and gotten the rust issues treated, and then have painted it with the rust bullet. The reason that I've started back on my car after such a long hiatus is I've been watching YouTube. A lot of those guys are doing their own projects, and that kind of got me motivated to do mine. James Freddy, B.W. Darren, Greg Porter, the Rick Fix, Tommy Shoe. I mean, I could go on for another 10 minutes. Those guys kind of put a foot in my rear end and got me motivated to get out of the house, get back to the garage, and start back on my stuff. So I'm really appreciative to those guys for getting me motivated again. Rick Fix, you're working on a Mustang too. What can I say, buddy? Mustang, you're having more issues to deal with some of that stuff than I am. But one thing that I did notice when I was doing mine is that there is no sheet metal between the back seat and the trunk. And the trunk is actually where the gas tank sits. I've actually got a piece of sheet metal cut out to go into this open area to block off that, so in case somebody hits me in the rear end while I'm driving this thing, I won't have a fireball come into the passenger compartment. I don't know, it's just something to think about. I also had some rust issues like you did down here on the driver's side and the passenger side drip rails. Here in just a second I'm going to turn this off and flip the car up where you can actually see it a little bit better. I had to do something similar to what you did, except I went ahead and drilled the spot welds out and fixed the rust, and I'm going to be welding that piece of channel back on there. Also, when I first bought the car, I did cut it and put a sunroof in it. You know, hindsight now, I probably wished I hadn't have done it, but I hate to have to buy a new roof skin and put on this car, so chances are I'm just going to put it back. It didn't leak after I installed it, so that's one positive. Here you can see, we were talking about safety the other day, especially with what happened to Rick. I always try to be vigilant and try to make sure I'm not putting myself in any danger. So even with the car on the rotisserie, I put this strap on here to make sure that this thing doesn't move unless I want it to. Here's a little bit of a shot inside the trunk area. This is actually about all I've got left as far as de-rusting the vehicle. Some of these areas in here. I've also got trunk drop-offs that I've got to replace, and a little bit more custom work I'm going to do in the trunk. This is a good shot of that area around the tail lights. This is real prone to rust. The way the moldings and stuff go on the outside of the car, they were chrome-plated pot metal, and they held water in there really bad. But I've been pretty fortunate. Mine wasn't quite as bad as some of them I had seen. Here's another area about the trunk drop-offs. Like I was saying, I've got this one cut and got the repairs made. I've got aftermarket panels I'm going to weld in there as soon as I deal with this last little bit of rust issue down inside the quarter panels. Okay, I'm going to turn you off, and I'll turn it back on as soon as I get back to flipping the car up right to where you can see it a little better.